The Kings moved to 4-1 in the Doug Christie era as they just absolutely stomp the Golden State Warriors without De'Aaron Fox. And I thought that this might have been Malik Monk's best game of his entire career. You know, he's had games where he's scored more points, scored a bunch more points. He's, been great in the clutch at times, but just from an all-around game standpoint, I think this might have been Malik Monk's best game that I've ever seen him play. Him stepping in for De'Aaron Fox and just taking all of the ball handling responsibility. He already has a lot, even when Fox is in the lineup, but now taking it all and putting up 26 points, 12 assists. He had 4 turnovers. He's not out there being Chris Paul or Tyrese Halliburton, not turning the ball over, but still, just the way that he ran this offense was masterful. And the Kings have now kind of made my prediction come true. After they fired Mike Brown, I said a 4-game win streak. They lost the first one, but now they're on a 4-game win streak. And, hopefully this is sustainable. It's like, what part of this is sustainable? What part of this is the honeymoon period? Obviously, playing Keon Ellis is a big part of it being sustainable. And then there's just like the vibes part of it. And it's like, can Doug Christie continue to get the guys to just play for him? Because I think that's a massive difference that we've seen is just Doug Christie is a guy that the players want to play for. Obviously, he was going out there when Steve Kerr was getting mad after Draymond clobbered Keon Ellis. He was ready to fight, and that's not the first time in his first 5 games in charge that we've seen him getting out there. And so I think guys just want to play for him. And what I'm really hoping that this, starting 4-1 and winning games after you fire Mike Brown, I really hope that it sends the message to the front office that you need to like go in with this core and make a move to try to make it even better. Because like this was great, but I hope what the front office isn't getting from it is like we're okay now. That's the thing that's worried me, and that's really why I'm so mad at the firing of Mike Brown is because I have zero faith that the front office will do anything after that. I feel like, they were just like, them in ownership were just like, yeah, fire the coach and then that'll be it. It's like, no, you got to keep making moves now. It's like you've solved one issue. Now you're playing Keon Ellis. And it's like now you have Devin Carter playing. That's great. So like those are 2 changes, but we still need to like go out and make a move. And I was thinking just before this game. So it's got nothing to do with this game. We'll get to this game in a second. I was just thinking about the reports going around that the Kings have made Cam Johnson somewhat of a priority, although the asking price is a little much and they're not willing to include Devin Carter. And so if they go get Cam Johnson, then all's forgiven on my part because they're proving me wrong that they actually are going to, fill the need for this team. But then there's the report where it's like they don't want to part with Devin Carter, which is fine. We're not at the trade deadline yet. That's fine. I love what Devin Carter's been showing, but it's like at some point you do have to part with, some of your guards to go get a wing because this game was so great, right? Everything was going right, except not quite, everything. It's like I don't want to take away from the positive of this game because it was great and let's overreact to how great this game was. But I still saw Alex Len go in there and not give you anything. And that was like the one time of the game where the Warriors really went on a run. And I still saw, despite Kevin Huerter coming in and making an impact, a positive one for sure, they were still going at him. It's like you still need these holes to be filled. You still need the roster to be balanced. One of the things that Fox talked about in the offseason was how he loved the stability of the Kings organization as it is right now. And that's something that the Kings haven't had, and they've had the history of firing good coaches and replacing them with bad coaches and all that. And so the Kings, again, they've thrown away that stability. But if they then make moves to reinforce this roster and rebalance it in the correct way, then that's absolutely the right move. And I will gladly admit that I was wrong, that firing Mike Brown was the wrong decision. But it was always going to help in the short term, and that's what we're seeing right now. I mean, it was just from the very beginning of this game, it was a game that had a beautiful flow to it. 6 minutes of like no whistles at the start of this game. It was very nice. And I just loved the way the Kings offense was flowing. And this is without De'Aaron Fox. The ball wasn't sticking. They weren't forcing up shots. They were just going from play to play, from action to action. And, if it wasn't there, then they just swing the ball, go to the next thing. It's not there, swing the ball, go to the next thing. They just kept trying to pick this Warriors defense apart. And if it wasn't there, then they weren't forcing it. And that's something that I want this Kings team to do even more of, because I think that's the beauty of all of the guys that they have. When you have Fox, Monk, DeRozan, Sabonis, obviously no Fox in this one, but still applies when you have Monk, DeRozan, and Sabonis. It's like when you swing the ball's most likely going to someone who can also make a play. And so it's like you can just keep recycling the possession until you get the shot that you want. And that's really what the Kings were doing. And then when they did miss, Keegan was there for 2 offensive rebounds early. Sabonis was there for an offensive rebound early. And Keon hits a corner 3 off of that one. Obviously very nice to have Keegan back when Fox is going out. You replace him with Keegan. And so that was obviously a very big help, especially because he shot the ball well in this game. And then the way the Kings were playing defensively, I mean, it was both sides of the court. The Kings played maybe their best game of the season when it comes to both sides of the court. Keon Ellis picking up Curry full court, disrupting him, forcing a turnover. And, Curry got his, but that came a little later. But what I just loved was the rotations on the defensive end, the closeouts. And, Curry had his moments. He goes 8 for 12 from the field and 4 for 8 from 3. But limiting him to 12 shots, I mean, obviously he didn't play the 4th. But we'll still take that. And it was him and Wiggins, and that was really their entire offense. We forced Draymond into 3 early 3-point shots, and he made one, but you're still gonna live with that. I know he's been shooting well from 3, and he went 2 for 4 in this game, but you got to live with something, and you rather live with that than a Curry 3 on some of these possessions. That's just how you have to play them, and get a late contest up. It's similar to the way the Kings were playing Gershon Yabusele in the Sixers game. Both of those guys, Yabusele and Draymond Green, have been shooting well, but they're still not shooters like Steph Curry. And so it was a pick your poison type of thing. When Kevin Huerter came in the game, the defense got a little worrisome because it was a lot of Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins screening for Curry, and so Keon would get switched onto Wiggins, Huerter would get switched onto Curry. And both of those aren't good matchups for the Kings. And the Kings just struggle with Andrew Wiggins every single time they play. And again, that's just why you still need to go out and make a trade to rebalance this roster. You still need a wing with size. And even Keegan, I think, our one wing that we do have that can defend still struggles a bit with size and really strong players. I think Keegan's better guarding down than up. And so, Huerter got lost on a screen trying to chase Curry. Then you had Keon getting posted up by Wiggins. So it got a little worrying there. But the Kings just kept pressing on the offensive end. Sabonis was dominating. His passing was so good, and he was going right at Trace Jackson Davis. Trace Jackson Davis played 18 minutes in the starting lineup, and he was horrible. And the Kings just exploited him so badly. Sabonis could just go right by him, and then he was finding the right passes, or he was just finishing at the rim. On the offensive end for TJD, he couldn't finish, and the Kings were just leaving him wide open, not afraid of him shooting at all. And you had a sequence where Sabonis had a nice driving kick to Monk for 3. You had Huerter hitting a sidestep 3. You had Keon just driving down and dunking because no one picked him up. It was a nice heads-up play. He tried it in the second half too, but they picked him up that time. And then you had, I don't know what happened, but I saw Huerter go and press Curry immediately after the Keon dunk, I think it was. And, the broadcast kind of cut away, but somehow there was a turnover. So it was a good job from Huerter to realize Keon's the guy dunking, so he has to be the one to go deny Curry the ball. And somehow it got turned over, and Huerter ends up wide open, and he knocked down another 3. So Huerter came in, and he drew a couple of moving screens on Trace Jackson Davis. So he's coming in and giving really positive minutes. And the biggest part of that is just him knocking down his shots. And I just loved the way the Kings were moving the ball. There were no isolations. They just kept moving the ball, kept attacking closeouts. I love the way guys like Keon Ellis and Devin Carter were attacking the closeouts and then continuing to move the ball and making the extra passes. And even when they went through some cold spells, like they did towards the end of the first quarter a little bit, they just kept at it and kept moving the ball. And I think that's something Doug Christie has done a little bit, is he's gone away from too many plays drawn up for DeMar DeRozan. That changed a little bit in the second half, definitely in the fourth quarter when he was in with the reserves, but even at the start of the third quarter. But yeah, I like the way the Kings were never forcing isolations. And then the Kings just forced a bunch of turnovers, and some of that is just the way, the Warriors beat themselves with turnovers, but some of it was absolutely forced by the Kings, and they're very good rotations. And I think the thing that sticks out the most about Devin Carter to me is his rotations and his closeouts. He's just so good at it. Even one refreshing thing was when he was one of the last guys back, coming back to defend in transition, and he runs to the right guy in the corner who's open to contest the shot. And that's just something the Kings haven't been very good at. And so he, made the right rotation, closed out well, offensively was making the right drive and kicks. His shot wasn't going down, but he had a nice drive to the rim where he got to the free throw line where he went 1 of 2. And he's just a confident player, I think. The shot wasn't totally falling in this game, but it'll fall. I mean, he's going to keep shooting. That's what it seems like in these first few games of him playing, is like he's going to keep shooting the ball. He doesn't lack confidence. He also had a really nice floater, and I think he made the right passes when he was driving into the lane. His alley-oop passes weren't the best. I think both of his turnovers were from alley-oop passes. At least one of them was, and I think he missed another. I think he was making all of the right decisions, even if like his passes weren't always quite on the mark, and his shot, he went 4 for 11, but he's looking good so far. I think the mistake the Kings made in the second quarter was putting Alex Len in. I said after the last game, when I was previewing this game, that I didn't think Alex Len was the right guy to be playing. And with Keegan Murray back, I think that makes it even less important that you play a guy like Len, because you have that size that you can play with Keegan. And so I didn't understand the Len minutes. And I think what it did for the Kings, offensively, it clogged things up. The Kings slowed down. They were trying to make these Len screens work, and the Warriors were just sending two at the ball, whether it was Devin Carter, DeMar DeRozan. And so the Kings, they had to throw over the top to Alex Len, and good things just were not happening, and they couldn't find any space, and it was just, the shot clock was running down. It was just slowing things down so much. On the defensive end, we can't switch when he's out there, and it just seemed like he was parked in the paint. And the Warriors, they went small, and you have to chase around the perimeter a whole bunch. And so it just led to Curry getting going and getting a little bit more space. And Len's not the type of guy where it's like the Warriors are playing small, so we either can match them or we can try to go big to exploit that. And so we try to go big to exploit that, but Alex Len isn't the type of guy that can exploit that. He's not good enough for that. He's not a Sabonis who's going to kill a smaller team inside on the offensive end that can make up for some of what he lacks on the defensive end. And so having Alex Len in there, I think what you need to have is 4 guys that can switch everything and that can fly around and rotate. And when you have Kevin Huerter and DeMar DeRozan, it's just not, those aren't the guys that can quite make Alex Len work in those lineups. DeMar, he fouled Curry on a 3. Then Sabonis came in, fouled Curry on a 3. So things started going downhill, and that's just a problem the Kings have had in these last few games, fouling 3-point shooters. And obviously the Jay Nivey one was the biggest, but since then I think someone had the stat that they had fouled like 8 3-point shooters in 4 games since that Jay Nivey one. So not even including that one. So we just got to be more disciplined on closeouts, and Curry's the guy that you can kind of understand it a little more. It's like, yeah, I mean, you're obviously really worried that he's going to make this 3, but you just got to be more disciplined. The Warriors went on an 11-0 run, and the Kings responded right away. Domas got an and one opportunity, missed the free throw, but then you had Monk and Keegan both hitting threes off of Sabonis feeds. So the Kings, they immediately responded to that 11-0 run with an 8-0 run. And then they went back with Sabonis back in the game, with Monk back in the game. They went back to playing that just beautiful offensive basketball with all the ball movement, moving the ball. There was one play where Monk drives, passes out to Keon. Keon attacks a closeout. He moves the ball. The ball moves around the perimeter to a wide open Keegan for three. Like, there were just so many sequences. You don't normally get more than maybe one sequence of just the beautiful ball movement that leads to an open three. And the Kings had a bunch of those. And then defensively, Keegan was helping deter guys at the rim, blocking some shots. I thought Sabonis played really good defense at the rim, just going straight up. He did get, both of them got in a bit of foul trouble. Both picked up 3 fouls. But especially Sabonis, I thought, was playing really well defensively. And Keegan struggled a bit with Andrew Wiggins. But for him to just come in and hit 3 threes was huge. And then you just had that domination from the Monk-Sabonis two-man game. Is Monk making 2 really nice passes into Sabonis, where Sabonis just can catch it up high and put it right in without having to bring it down, because that's where things get dangerous. If he can just put it right back to the rim after he catches, I mean, that's what makes an elite playmaker, elite passer in that pick and roll, and that's what Monk is. And Monk hit a 3, Keon back tapped Curry for a steal, and then Monk with the alley-oop pass to Keon. I loved that he threw an oop to Keon and Devin Carter in this game, both like the exact same play. And just the energy was so good. You had Monk blocking a shot and saving it from going out of bounds, Sabonis hitting a 3, and the only worry was the foul trouble. But we were getting up so much that it's like, well, if we're not going to have to play in the fourth quarter, then the foul trouble means nothing. And just more of that energy. It was like Sabonis drawing an offensive foul or a loose ball foul, going for an offensive rebound. Lyles did the same thing in that second quarter. It's just the energy was so good. And Malik Monk, he had a double-double by halftime. He already had 10 assists. And I think the Kings were up like 24, 25, something around there. But you always know, like, especially the Warriors with Steph Curry obviously shooting well in this game. It's like you got to make sure you're still dialed in. And for the most part, they were in the third quarter. I mean, I think it got a little, like, they got a little too loose. Like, playing loose is good, but there's like a fine line. I think they found the perfect amount of looseness to play with in the first half, and then they went a little too loose with the ball and with some of the plays they were making in the third quarter. It's a very fine line. But they started the third quarter really well, and doing it on the defensive end. Keegan getting a block and then Monk finding him inside for the dunk. Keegan got another offensive rebound. He also picked up a loose ball and found Monk for 3, or he didn't find Monk for 3, but off of that loose ball, eventually the ball found Monk for 3. And I think they kind of started to give the ball to DeMar more, trying to get him going a little bit. But there was just no need to like force that isolation. And they gave it to him a couple times, but he wasn't isolating. But he just had the ball, and it slowed us down a little bit. It's like there's just no need for that, and so they went away from that pretty quickly and kept playing with pace. Both teams started missing some layups and having some turnovers. It just got into like a very fast pace, mistake-filled game that kind of felt like a pickup run at one point. And that's what I mean about getting a little too loose. But the Warriors, I mean, when you want to talk about trying to find that line of looseness, the Warriors are the team that presses that the most, and tries to play very, very loose. And so they were, it's one of those things where it's like if you get into a fast-paced game and you have some turnovers or some not the greatest moments, missing some layups, it's like you kind of expect to be punished by the Warriors, but they didn't do too much punishing. And I thought the Kings defense was really good to make sure they kept a sizable lead. And the Kings just kept hitting threes, so that was helpful. Herter hit a step back 3, pump fake step back 3, and so that's always going to help. Shooting the ball really well is always going to help, but I mean, they were generating great looks. And then you had Draymond tackling Keon, and that one got called for a foul. and then he comes up again and just puts Keon on the floor. I'm not sure how the ref missed that. Like that was a really bad play. And then the fact that Steve Kerr was saying it was a flop. And you know, I think he's just trying to fire up his guys. Obviously it wasn't a flop. It should have been called a foul on Draymond. It was a very clear foul. I think that might have been like their fourth, fifth moving screen of the game, whereas the Kings hadn't been called for one. And that also might have something to do with why he was mad. But yeah, I mean, if he looks back at that replay, he's not gonna be mad at that. Obviously, they got away with one. I mean, they weren't called for a moving screen there. So yeah, I mean, Keon stayed on the ground for a while, and Doug Christie was not happy. But after that, again, the game kind of, it felt like a weird pace. Kings not completely putting the game away, and there was a point where it's like the Kings had a 22-point lead, so it's like, is this going to be a game or not? Who makes the next run? And there was a while that they were stuck on 22 there, but the Kings ended up making the run, and it was Devin Carter pump faking, getting his man in the air, drawing the foul. The Kings forcing some misses at the rim. Domas with some nice defense. DeMar with some nice defense. You had Monk going in for that massive dunk, and then pushing the ball, and Devin Carter making his first three of his NBA career. And then Monk attacked again and got to the line. It was just this Malik Monk game. It was so good. The way that he was able to get into the lane and make the right decisions, whether that was finishing at the rim, dunking on someone's head, or moving the ball and making the right passes, making beautiful interior passes to Sabonis, making sure that the Kings continued to play with pace. It was very nice to see. So Kings ended, I think, up 30 to end the third quarter. So that was pretty much it. With about like 4 or 5 minutes left in the third quarter, I was just thinking, make sure we got a 20+ point lead going into the fourth, then I would be happy. And they were able to just go on that big run and extend it up to 30. So I was very happy. And then the fourth, the Kings just gave the ball to DeMar, and we're like, here you go. Just slow the game down, use the shot clock, get up some shots. And that was pretty much to put the game away. Of course, we'd like some better ball movement, but really they were just, making sure they managed the clock and didn't turn the ball over, although they did on the first possession. But the rebounding wasn't great, but they went to Lyles at the 5 instead of Alex Len, which is what they should do. But also the Warriors put out their reserves, and Kevon Looney was out there just getting some rebounds, and the energy dropped because you're up 30, and so you're allowing some offensive rebounds. It's fine. Garbage time was a little interesting because we had 4 guys on G League assignment. So we're running Orlando Robinson and Alex Len out there together. Jay Crowder still doesn't get to play. He just gets to sit on the bench. It sure seems like Crowder will be waived. I mean, it really feels like he will be. If the Kings make a trade, I mean, either one of these guys are getting involved in the trade, or like Doug McDermott could get waived, Orlando Robinson could get waived, Jay Crowder could get waived. But of course, Doug McDermott comes in, hits 2 threes. We need him to do that more when he actually gets minutes, meaningful minutes. But it's nice to see Devin Carter out there getting some run, getting some shots up, hitting another 3, making some nice passes. So far, firing Mike Brown has probably gone exactly how the front office and ownership would have wanted it to go. It re-energized the team. Like, that's what it's supposed to do. But hopefully it wasn't just a short-term move where you re-energize the team for a little bit here. Like, we need it to continue. And that's really why I hope that this game does, not just this game, but like this, winning streak doesn't make the front office complacent. I hope it shows this front office that your core can work and that you should go add to it. Because I think if you don't add to it, maybe the Kings go and make a play-in run where they get to the playoffs. Like, maybe they do that. Or, maybe they do get to the playoffs, but then it's like next season, then we start off. What if we start off, kind of the same, and we've lost that honeymoon period, and now all of a sudden, if you didn't extend Fox, then Fox's contract is, a big question mark next season. If you started off poorly, now you're in trouble. And if, things don't work out with the roster, you've lost any stability you've had, which was, Probably a big reason you were able to sign DeMar is he saw some stability in this franchise, So it's like, what I'm saying is you got to back up your move, because I think the Kings had problems from the top of the organization to the bottom, and you've changed one part and it looks to be going well. You still need to change another part, and that other part is the roster and rebalance it. Because like the Kings, they're judged differently than any other team, and I think rightfully so, because when you have the history that the Kings have of firing some good coaches and hiring, replacing them with not so good coaches, and not making winning moves and not supporting your stars with talent, like you absolutely don't get the benefit of the doubt. So all I'm saying is you've brought some short-term success here. Back it up with another move to make sure that you have cemented it in more long-term success for this team. Because we've seen the way that this team can play when it's at its peak, but we need a way to be more sustainable because this core has earned it. Let's look at some individual performances though. Sabonis, 30 minutes, 22 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 0 turnovers. Just dominated the Warriors inside. I thought his defense on the interior was good as well. Malik Monk, 29 minutes, 9 for 14 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3, 26 points, 12 assists, 4 steals, and a block. Had those 4 turnovers, but he was doing it offensively. He was doing it defensively. He was hitting his shots. He was playmaking, running the offense, making sure that the Kings kept up their pace. Such a good game from Malik Monk. Keon Ellis went 24 minutes, 11 points, 3 for 7 from the field, 2 assists, 2 steals. Thought he played Curry pretty well defensively when he was out there. Forced a couple of turnovers with those steals. Was chasing him all around and keeping him contained for the most part. He got crossed up that one time, and that'll be the highlight. But I think for the most part, he did his job in containing Curry. And any time that he wasn't on Curry was when Steph was scoring. Keegan in his return, 26 minutes, 4 for 11 from the field, but 3 for 8 from 3. That's a good sign. Him knocking down 3 threes. Still waiting for like the big breakout game from 3 for him, but a solid 11 points and 4 rebounds with a steal, with a block. I thought he got another block as well. Maybe that steal got counted as a block, but I'm not sure. Or the block got counted as a steal, I meant to say. And then you have DeMar, 31 minutes, 5 for 14 from the field. He took 4 threes, and so it is interesting. Is he going to take more threes now? Because he took 7 last game. He went 0 for 4 from 3. But I like the threes that he was taking. And the Kings, until the fourth quarter, they didn't really force DeMar to be into the offense. He had his moments, especially at the end of quarters. And at the end of the shot clock, whenever that came about, because Fox wasn't there, so it turned into DeRozan time. And so not the biggest game from him with 12 points. Lyles, 24 minutes, 1 for 3 from the field, and that was a 3. 7 points, 9 rebounds, 2 steals. Everyone was chipping in the steals department. He was just out there giving good effort, and the ball, it didn't really come to him for him to continue to shoot like he has in the past few games. But I feel like that's been a thing with him. Like, he's not forcing up any shots that he doesn't need to, and he's really just crashing the glass and going after rebounds. And then Devin Carter, 23 minutes, 4 for 11 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, 3 for 4 from the free throw line, 13 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 2 turnovers. Loved his energy, and he had a big assignment guarding Curry a lot of the times, and, wasn't always perfect. Steph had that sidestep 3 on him, but overall did a pretty good job against Steph for, it being him coming in as a rookie and right away having to go on Steph, and then the offensive part of his game, being able to like drop in a nice floater, pump fake, and draw a foul at the 3-point line. Those are like veteran moves, I feel like. And just how high his shot goes. His arc is crazy. It's like Davion Mitchell like. With how much arc he's got on that. Hopefully he has a little more success in shooting than Davion. He should be a better shooter there. And I think we'll see that in coming games, but had more opportunity with Fox out. And then Herter, 20 minutes, 5 for 7 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3 for 16 points. Chipped in 2 steals as well. He was just shooting it confidently. And he still had the pump fakes, but those pump fakes just turned into sidestep threes or step back threes rather than him just kind of doing nothing with the ball. And so just the biggest thing for him is whether that shot is going down or not. And it went down tonight. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We don't need to go into anybody else's stats. It was nice for the Kings to not really have to play in the fourth quarter because they have a back-to-back coming up against the Heat. The Heat are in an interesting spot because they've suspended Jimmy Butler. And so some interesting things going on over there. But they just got blown out by the Utah Jazz. So they're kind of floundering right now, I guess you could say. I'm assuming Fox will be out in this one as well. It doesn't really sound like he's going to be coming back one day later. And so it's everyone key in on Tyler Hero because Bam hasn't been great offensively. So it's just everyone on Hero. Hero's the guy. Keon Ellis gets put on Hero. Sure, Devin Carter will get a shot. Throw bodies at him, make others beat you, and just keep up the beautiful ball movement that we've seen. These last two games offensively have been so good. And that doesn't mean we're going to shoot the same from three, but if we keep generating as good of looks as we have been generating, then some should fall at least at a good percentage. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. As always, shout out to the members of this channel for the support, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.